So, Mitch, I've heard you say a lot about the fact that if a company hasn't done this already, the change in economic circumstances, that most companies should be rebuilding their cash flow forecast from the ground up. Why is that, and what does that mean exactly?
Sure. In terms of what it means, and this is vary from what people might traditionally do with annual planning, is when we talk about our cash flow planning, it's at a weekly level, and it is starting at the bottoms up. So instead of taking prior periods and adding a percentage or taking away a percentage, we're going to go at the most granular level and build up expected cash receipts and disbursements. And so that can be large items like rent and payroll, and understanding exactly when they're going to come out of our bank account, and also future events for expected expenses that we maybe didn't really think about, whether it's annual maintenance of some assets, whether it's some sort of cash payments for taxes, things like this that in general, when you're planning at a bigger scale, either a quarter or annual view, you may not really care when those values are going to hit. What we're talking about is a bottoms-up analysis that lets you know what your anticipated cash balance is going to be every given week.
Okay. And why do you think that's important now?
Well, simply, it's important because you don't want to run out of cash. And this is a consideration that is a reality for some companies all the time. But for many companies, this might be their first time, or at least first time in maybe a decade, where they're looking at cash balances and they really want to know, where is that turning point? Where are they going to need to ensure that they have additional financing lined up? And additionally to that, and we've encountered this with our small startup or high growth companies, it also can inform when you want to raise money. You don't want to raise too much money and over dilute existing shareholders. And so whether it's trying to conserve cash or trying simply just to know when your next round of financing is necessary and how much, those are both valid reasons that a company would want to revisit or create a cash flow forecast.
Okay, that makes sense to me. And I know that particularly in Los Angeles, there's a very large number of companies that are venture capital backed that have, they may have paths to profitability, but the path may run out a few years into the future. And so in a different kind of a funding environment, they might need to shift gears in terms of their burn rates and maybe getting to profitability, or at least cash flow break even much more quickly, which could necessitate some dramatic changes to the enterprise or a change in their business model. What kinds of companies would you say are good candidates for this type of forecast?
Well, I mean, really, it's anyone who's maybe in this era looking at cash a lot harder and looking at cash balances maybe for the first time. And it can be tempting to look at your traditional forecasts and traditional P&Ls and do a proxy for cash, but it really doesn't give you that same level of certainty. And I think going through the exercise of a bottoms-up comprehensive cash flow forecast, what it can do is really expose the drivers of your cost on a true cash basis, as opposed to a P&L, which one can exclude some cash costs for whatever reasons. And it also really articulates what level of investment is required. So instead of spreading investments over a longer period via depreciation, you're actually saying, oh, I need to go spend $1 million on this physical item or this piece of software, and seeing where those bumps are and understanding which of those things are truly necessary. Maybe they can be pushed out or delayed or spread out over a longer period of time. And similarly, you can think about headcount hiring as well. So companies that, like you said, smaller or high growth companies may have had a certain path to profitability. If they know they're going to need to make that cash last a little longer, they may need to revisit some of the things they're planning to do in the rest of the year.
Okay, that makes sense. That's a good point. In terms of making fixed asset investments or other things that get amortized over time, they may not look that consequential if you take them over their useful life and you're just recognizing the expense every month. It can be a very significant cash outflow at a time when a company should be looking at cash.